I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're taking a look at an amazing book. It is called AGGIE Goes to Africa, and it's written by a terrific author by the name of Mike Pavelka. This captivating book details Mike's unique experiences while working in the remote parts of Western Africa. We will discover how his time in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea, and with ExxonMobil transformed his perspective on life and work. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Mike, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Great to have you on the show. The name of the book is AGGIE Goes to Africa. Why isn't it Mike Goes to Africa?
Because that represents how I got my degree. I come from a very simplistic family, and my uncle, Uncle Virgil, started, and he got a degree, and he started working with Humboldt Oil and Refining, which became Exxon. And then my uncle J.M. graduated in 1952. So you got 26, 52, and I'm class of 74. So we just kind of had a tradition of going to A&M.
Okay, gotcha. Hence, AGGIE Goes to Africa.
Roger.
Yeah, sounds great. Is there a particularly memorable moment or challenge you faced while working in Malabo?
One moment. There were so many, it's hard to pick one out. The fact that the people of Equatorial Guinea needed so much help, and we could not give it to them because we were only 3 people. And we were only there to produce oil and gas. And that's what we did. Later, when Marathon bought us, and Exxon found Zapiro Field, things picked up real quick. But there are 2 people that I have met, and we're going to sit down, compare notes, and try to write a second book so we can put some thoughts in context to help the people in Equatorial Guinea. The people, we were literally in the jungle. We had 20-foot boas, we had 8-foot cobras, and 3-foot mambas. And that being said, the people would come up to us and say, "Make me a farm." And we look at them and say, "We're not farmers." But what they meant, their village chief came down, and through discussion, we found out all they wanted was our D9 cat to lay the blade down and push the brush back. So we did. And then they would get out there and chop the brush out from under it. And then they would go out there and plant their garden. Bananas, plantain, malanga, yucca, and there was some kind of green vegetable. We could never figure it out, and we didn't eat it either. But that being said, the women would go out there and do most of the work, and they would actually spend the night in the jungle with those boas, the cobras, the malanga,
Almost.
Yeah. All those snakes that one bite and you were toast.
Amazing.
And we would get where we were giving the ladies, they carried 70 pounds on their back as far as 7 miles. And those ladies would come up to us. We had trucks, Ford diesels, and they would come up and say, will you give me a ride to town? Oh, what idiot would do that? So we would give them a ride to town, and we told them, said, okay, do not go to the airport, because the men would want to jump in the back of the truck. So the ladies would stop at the river. We would stop. We would pick them up. And then when we would go past the airport, the men would try to jump in the truck, and we just keep driving. And if they fell on the ground, that was their problem. So, we tried to help the people as much as we could.
Right. So you were working for ExxonMobil. You had another job to do, but while you're there, you just took it upon yourselves with your crew members to do a little compassion work, a little humanitarian work as well.
Yes, sir. Really and truly, we working for a very small company.
Hmm.
I don't know if you know what OPIC was. OPIC
Hmm.
was Oil Production Incorporated, and so it was actually Walter International was the
Hmm.
company we went over there with. Mobil came in there next, and they found Zapiro Field, which was northwest of Malabo, which was the island. And I don't know if you've ever been in that area, but we had Nigeria, and they were the kind of the 800-pound gorilla, and they would come fly over us. And I don't know if you've ever had a jet fly over you about 200 or 300 feet, but it scared the heck out of you, and usually had dirty pants. So that being said, we were originally producing about 3,000 barrels a day of 65-degree U.S. or condensate. And then after the next well was drilled, we went up to 7,000.
Mm.
7,000 barrels a day. It was 63, 65-degree condensate, which was combined with the Coley crude, and then they would mix it in a 400,000 barrel tanker, which we would load, and then they would take it to Limbe, which was a refinery in Cameroon across the water.
Mm.
So, one time the Nigerians, I guess it was, uh, they showed up at night and they parked their boats in our mooring system. The next morning, we found out the ninjas, which was the military unit, had come up and surrounded us because they thought we were loading. The guy said, "How much? I'm those boats, if they held 200 barrels, they were lucky."
Mm.
So the guy came there. Of course, he had a gun. We didn't,
Mm.
and he accused us of loading their boats. I said, "Sir, we can't load their boats. It's not that much." And so anyway, they left. They weren't happy, but they left. But
Amazing.
it was. I tell you what, every day was a challenge because we had 40 employees.
Wow.
I don't know if you ever knew anybody who had malaria, but I had it 6 times.
Jeez.
And yeah, I guarantee you it was tough.
Yeah.
So, and we had one doctor, that was Dr. Isabel Wright, and that lady saved my life 6 times. What do you say to somebody that saves your life? I just don't know. But the people with the uh, embassy there, we we didn't get along with them very well because they wanted us to try to overthrow the government. We were not there for that. They were supposed to be there for help the people with medical, help the people farm, and help the people with roads.
Mm.
They didn't have a single nurse. They didn't have a single farmer. They didn't have a single person that knew anything about farming. So the second book that I'm getting ready to write is going to chastise the American embassy for not helping those people.
Mm.
That being said, they took $5 million a year from the American taxpayers, and all they did was sit there and try to overthrow the government. And one time, the person in charge got on national radio and said, "We need to overthrow this government." Well, I didn't know anything about it. I was in bed asleep. Next morning, I get up, go down to the port, and as I'm going by the Hotel Eureka, there's they in Spanish. They told me, which I understood enough to be scared. Mm-hmm. They told me, said, "You are a very bad man." I told them, I said, "Well, I don't know what I did last night, but I sure as hell ain't gonna do it again." And so after I found out what was said, I never cooperated with that guy. Yeah. He'd come up to me and he'd say, "How much money do they get? I said, "Sir, I don't know." And I didn't. I did not ever see the checks that were written to the government. And we transport them from Houston, Texas to Malabo. We would hand them to the person designated, and they would hand them to somebody else, and they would go to Switzerland and deposit them. But he asked about that. He asked about how much percentage the government was getting. Said, "Sir, I've never seen a contract." So every time he asked something, we never lied to him, but we just didn't help him.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. One of many amazing stories in your book. It's called Aggie Goes to Africa by Mike Pavelka. It is a captivating book that details his unique experiences while working in parts of Western Africa. It changed the perspective that he had on life, and he still thinks about his years there. And the good news is a sequel is coming to this book as well, because the first book is fascinating and the second book promises to be just as captivating. Mike, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you very much, sir.
I appreciate your time. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.